blessing, and he's out here with the people. That's not even God's spirit.
No.
People deceive themselves. They're worshipping God. God, you are so holy. God, you are so worthy. And then God says, my heart is for the Muslims in this land. My heart is for the lost of this land. Now go out and reach them. Next week I just want to come and I just want you, God.
It's like William Booth for the lost.
Well, the ones we know, they want to go out and actually invite the Muslims in to have tea and coffee in the building and not actually preach to them, not share the gospel. Just
right,
have, like,
so we'll let people sit in their sin. When they go home, they continue to cut their wrists and have jinn visiting their house. But it's okay because we've invited them into our church where we consume for ourselves. True worship is offering yourself as a living sacrifice to God.
That's right. Yeah.
True worship, the prophet said, I don't want your sacrifices, your incense, your worship. I want obedience.
Obedience is better than sacrifice. Yeah.
In the beginning, if I'm a child and I don't know anything about God and I'm suffering under heaviness, I need to go and know I praise God and that heaviness comes off me. But after I've learnt that and the Spirit starts to say, now go to the people, if I keep going to receive more when God has told me what to do, I'm being disobedient.
Yeah, so that's a sin.
Yeah.
So when you do a sin, what happens? You're opening up yourself to something.
Your heart hardens.
Yeah.
Today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your heart.
Yeah.
So then your heart has been hardened, but you still think God is blessing you. I'm going to church and I'm feeling God's Spirit. That's not God's Spirit you're feeling.
But we were out on mission 2 days ago, and the guy I was with was going, I feel the presence of God, and I'm like, wow, you do? Yeah, I do as well.
Yes.
But that's because you don't need to worship.
Because we're
being
obeying
obedient.
God.
Yeah.
God says, I will be with you always to the end of the age.
Yeah, our knees were like jelly, and we were shaking and feeling like the presence, like buzzing all over, because we were just knocking on doors and sharing the gospel. It's
There was
amazing.
great joy in the house with Louise.
They went out in fear and they returned in joy.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
And
joy.
that erupts spontaneous worship to God.
That's right. House last time you were here.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So that's true worship. Now, if I go and worship in a church building and God speaks and I ignore him and say I'm going back for more of his presence, that becomes, maybe not the beginning, 20 years later, 30 years later, people doing that. That's just willful disobedience
How
against
do you get
God.
rid of a hard heart?
By being broken and repenting.
Yeah. It's Jeremiah and Ezekiel says it, and you repent. That's what happened.
A contrite heart.
Now, who are the people who usually call for repentance and brokenness? Have you heard any prophet saying that to you or anybody else?
Marsha.
Yeah.
You can guess in the space of like 10 minutes.
Not really.
No.
Luckily
I have a
it's
portable
more
chair
like
as well.
put a plaster on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what did the prophet say? They put a plaster on my people.
Yeah. When the wound is
Isn't that what the prophet said?
Yeah, he said it's incurable. They put a plaster over it.
You build systems that are not from God.
Yeah, with leaking.
Yeah.
Leaking.
Yeah.
But it's okay because the worship leaders are quite trendy. They've got the right kind of tight jeans.
Well, then you see they follow this other thing called David's tent, like David's thing, David's worship and everything.
Yes, which again could be good if it's linked with when you're in David's tent.
Yeah.
The presence of God comes and tells you what you need to do.
Yeah.
If I'm doing David's tent, 24-hour worship, or any kind of prayer or any kind of worship, when you're in God's presence, the more you get closer,
He'll too.
you get the outer court, you get the holy place, you get the holy of holies.
Yeah.
You hear God's voice, and He speaks not just through some crazy random prophet. He speaks through people actually in the place, and they're all like, God is raising up a Joshua generation to take the land.
Yeah.
Right, okay. He said that in 1992.
Yeah.
It's now 2018.
So then why is it when we say let's do evangelism, people don't want to go out?
25 years, 6 years later, God is raising up a Joshua generation to take the land. He's saying that people need to reach Muslims in Europe.
Yeah.
What other kind of words are there? He's raising up the next generation. It's like, yeah, okay, he's raising up. So the people who were 20 who've heard that are now 45. The people who were 45 that have heard that are now 70. So which generation is he rising? Which actual generation is God speaking to then?
Yeah, yeah.
Which one is he actually talking to? Okay. So, what is it that God said? Well, we don't know yet. We want to seek Him a bit more. We've not heard God yet. Let's seek Him a bit more. Let's go to Him again and find out again what He's saying.
Yeah, yeah.
The issue isn't church building. The issue isn't singing songs. The issue isn't whether there's 24/7 prayer movements, David said, whatever. The issue is whether people are obeying God or not.
Yeah.
When he repeated whether someone's in a simple church and then are they obeying God or not?
And it's
if somebody's in their workplace, are they obeying God or not?
Yeah.
If somebody's gone to an all-night worship thing, are they obeying God or not? If somebody's in some established church, are they obeying God or not?
Where's the
Very
persecution?
simple.
That's what
Now,
you tell by the persecution.
all of us fall short, all of us miss God. Yeah. But collectively as a people, over 20, 30, 40, 50 years, if we've collectively disobeyed God, the lampstand gets removed.
Yeah. That's what happened to UK then?
Well, at the minute it seems like the light has almost kind of lost its light. And that's why God is raising up the stones from Abraham. God's still going to want to get his way somehow. So if he goes to his own people and they don't respond to him, he'll raise up prostitutes, tax collectors, and the stones will cry out.
Yeah.
So I think that's where
not his people to be.
his people.
Yeah.
So Paul and others who work with the Gentiles, he said he had a few Jewish co-workers. So there's a few Calebs, there's a few people who are Christians, very few, so stretched out that they're like dry bones, really, like one in one area, one so stretched out.
Yeah.
But they're trying to huddle together thinking they're the body. They're not the body, they're just a scaffolding for this work.
The skeleton.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, there's only people, so now we are just, we're okay now, like, we found each other, let's encourage each other.
No, they're the skeleton.
We're here to be in the land, and by doing that, we are encouraging each other.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the body, we're not the body. We are a scaffolding for that body.
Right. Yeah.
So if you turn around the camera, these are the people who are not the people that are going to become a people.
Yeah, that's why I take a portable chair with me, just sit down.
Yeah.
Just sit down, so it's really
Yeah.
There's only 5 or 6 of us sitting here, but there's more people who are not yet a people than the ones who are sitting here as the people. So that means we can only be the scaffolders. We're not the full body.
Yeah.
The full body is here when we bring them all in. So I am worshipping God all day today because the sky is declaring the glory of God. I am amazed by His creation and I'm overjoyed. And this for me is true worship.
Yeah.
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 But you know what? My heart isn't really in this. Like tomorrow, I just need to be with God and find some Christians so I can like sing some like "Come Now's the Time to Worship" to really stoke up my juices. Like, oh God, come to me.
Holy Spirit, fill me up.
Come to me.
Yeah.
You know, we're now so worn out. We just need a touch of your spirit. It's interesting that there's only one time when it says Jesus sang a hymn, and it was when he was about to die. And he went out to the Mount of Olives and he sang a hymn, and he spent all night sweating blood and tears in the garden outside that day. And he was sweating blood and tears because the question was, you know, like, God, is there any way for this to pass from me? But I want to do your will. And he's like wrestling and like to the point where blood is sweating down his face, and he's like, can you wait up for me with 1 hour with me when I'm going through this torment? And then the next day he faced the cross. You know, and that's really for the joy set before him. That was his cross. You know, the joy comes through the suffering. It doesn't come through me like giving myself a pep talk, going for my own worship, getting filled up, and then it not going anywhere. Like I get filled up, I then live my life how I want the whole week. It gets depleted. I come back to be filled up again. Is that what worship is?
No.
Is that what worship is? Like, I get filled up for my own life. On Monday, when God comes to me, I do what I want. Tuesday, I do what I want. Wednesday, I do what I want. Thursday, I do what I want. Friday, I'm getting worn out. Saturday, I'm dead. Sunday, thank God, I've got filled back up again.
Yeah.
Monday starts.
So how are you giving God everything then? Because you haven't given him anything.
Not giving
yet.
him anything
No,
whatsoever.
nothing.
So the reason why God raised up worship, you know, like churches do worship, is because he was raising up, he's enthroned on the praises, so he can then speak. So then he speaks Joshua generation, but then he's expecting it to happen. He's expecting people then to do that Joshua generation. So if I then like go home, Joshua generation, wasn't that a great word, Claire? Joshua generation. And then like next Sunday it's like, let's go to God again. Joshua generation. And then I go home.
Well, you've got to sing this song when you're at home as well.
If a 25-year period has gone past, that means a generation has passed that's not obeyed what God has said.
Yeah.
And so it then says in James, if you hear what God has said, but you don't do it, you've deceived yourself. So as I praise, God is enthroned on the praises. He speaks, Joshua generation. If I then don't do it for 25 years, I deceive myself thinking we're okay, we're doing what God wants, and we've not done it. And over time what happens is God withdraws his presence from those people and gives it to a people that will produce the fruit.
Yeah.
So the issue isn't the praise, the issue isn't whether people are saying Joshua generation or not. The issue is, who are the people who've heard it for so long and are they doing it yet? If they're not doing it and still saying the same prayers and singing the same songs, they're chanting words without any meaning. Saying the same things, going through the same motions, but their heart is not in it.
Isn't it like mockery in the end, really?
And it is a mockery to God. So what God is saying now isn't what he said 40, 50 years ago. He's not saying anymore. It's just about coming into his presence and just being like that. He's saying it's now time to call the weaklings to be warriors, to call the fighting men to draw their swords, and to march in the land like an army, Joshua generation. Go and do it. Yeah, I'll have another one.
Yeah, cool.
It's only 50p.
Paul will twist my words, but let's make it very clear again. God is enthroned on praises, so it's okay to praise. When he's enthroned on praises, he speaks to people. When he speaks to people, he expects them to obey. If they don't obey and come back and do praise again, and they do that consistently for 20, 40, 50 years, they're now walking in disobedience from God, and God takes his presence and gives it to those who